Lieutenant Danny Cole had been on the starship Horizon's Edge for exactly 3 months, 12 days, and about 6 hours. He knew this because he counted every single day. Life on a diplomatic vessel was not exciting. It was boring. Very, very boring. Danny was 28 years old, had brown hair that never stayed flat, and green eyes that his mother always said looked like trouble waiting to happen. She was usually right about things like that. The Horizon's Edge was one of Earth's newest ships. It was big, shiny, and filled with diplomats who walked around like they were better than everyone else. Danny was not a diplomat. He was a security officer. His job was to stand in corners, look serious, and make sure nobody got hurt. Most days, nobody even looked at him. But today was different. Today, the Valaxian ambassador was visiting the observation deck, and everyone was nervous. The Valaxians were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still figuring out how to make fire. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that glowed soft blue like moonlight on water. Their eyes were silver, and they could see things humans could not. They could hear things humans could not. They could read faces so well that lying to them was almost impossible. Ambassador Kirith was the most important Valaxian in this part of space. She had come to the Horizon's Edge to talk about a possible alliance between Earth and Valaxi. The talks had been going on for 2 years, and they were not going well. The Valaxians kept saying that humans were hard to understand. They said humans smiled when they were angry and laughed when they were sad. They said humans made no sense. Danny thought the Valaxians made no sense either. But nobody asked him. He stood in his usual corner of the observation deck, watching the stars drift by outside the massive windows. The room was full of diplomats in fancy clothes, talking in quiet voices, trying very hard not to say anything stupid. Commander Lisa Grant, the head of the diplomatic mission, stood near the center of the room. She was a tall woman with red hair and a face that always looked like she was about to yell at someone. Danny liked her. She reminded him of his aunt. Ambassador Kirith stood near the windows, her back to the room. She was looking out at the stars, her blue skin reflecting the light from distant suns. She wore a long silver robe that flowed like water when she moved. Her white hair was pulled back from her face, and her markings, the bioluminescent lines that all Valaxians had, pulsed slowly in shades of purple and blue. Danny tried not to stare. He had been trained not to stare. Staring at Valaxians was considered rude, and rude could mean war. So he looked at the floor, at the ceiling, at Commander Grant's shoes. Then Ambassador Kirith dropped her data tablet. It was a small thing, about the size of a human phone but thinner and made of some material that looked like glass but was not. It slipped from her long fingers and fell to the floor with a soft click, and then she bent over to pick it up. Danny's brain, which had been working perfectly fine for 28 years, suddenly decided to take a vacation. He saw the ambassador bend at the waist, her silver robe tightening across her form, and before he could stop himself, words came out of his mouth. "Damn, she's got a nice butt." He said it quietly, so quietly that no human in the room could have heard it. He said it under his breath, meant for no one. Just a private thought that accidentally became private words. But Valaxians could hear a mouse sneeze from 300 feet away. Ambassador Kirith straightened slowly. The data tablet was in her hand, but she was not looking at it. She was looking at Danny. Her silver eyes locked onto his like targeting lasers, and the pulsing of her markings changed from calm blue to a sharp, rapid orange. Orange was bad. Danny remembered that from training. Orange meant anger or surprise, or both. The room went silent. Not quiet, silent. The kind of silence that happens when everyone suddenly realizes something terrible has just occurred, but nobody knows exactly what yet. "Commander." Grant looked at Danny. Her face had gone pale. Then she looked at the ambassador, then back at Danny. "Lieutenant Cole," she said slowly, her voice tight with controlled panic. "Did you say something?" Danny's mouth was dry. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. He wanted to lie. He wanted to say he had coughed or sneezed or made some other innocent noise. But the ambassador was still staring at him, and Valaxians could tell when humans lied. "Yes, ma'am," he said, because there was no point in denying it. "I did." Ambassador Kirith took a step toward him. Then another. Her silver robes whispered against the floor as she moved. The other diplomats stepped back, creating a path between her and Danny. Nobody wanted to be in the way if she decided to do something violent. "You find my physical form aesthetically pleasing?" she asked. Her voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that dangerous things had right before they stopped being calm. Danny swallowed hard. "Ambassador, I apologize. That was inappropriate and disrespectful. I never meant for you to hear that. But you did think it," she said. "And you did say it, even if quietly. These are facts, yes?" "Yes, ma'am." She was close now. Close enough that Danny could see the tiny silver flecks in her eyes, like stars in a pale sky. Close enough to smell something like flowers and rain. Close enough to kill him with one swipe of her long, elegant hands if she wanted to. "Among my people," she said, to comment on another's physical form is considered either a profound insult or a declaration of serious intent. There is no middle ground. "So tell me, Lieutenant Cole, which was yours?" Danny's career flashed before his eyes. All those years at the academy. All those tests and training exercises. All those nights studying diplomatic protocols and alien cultures. His parents had been so proud when he got assigned to the Horizons Edge. His little sister had cried at his going away. Party dot, and now it was all going to end because he could not keep his mouth shut about an aliens. Backside, Commander Grant stepped forward, trying to help. "Ambassador, I assure you that Lieutenant Cole meant no disrespect. Human males sometimes have difficulty controlling their verbal responses when they encounter something they find visually appealing. It is a biological response, not a conscious choice to offend." Danny winced. That made it sound even worse. Ambassador Kirith held up one long finger, silencing the commander without looking at her. "I was not speaking to you, Commander Grant. I was speaking to the lieutenant." He spoke the words. He will explain them. Everyone in the room was looking at Danny now. The diplomats, the officers, the serving staff who had been quietly offering drinks. All of them stared at the young security officer who had just possibly started an interstellar incident with 5 words about an alien's posterior. Danny took a deep breath. If he was going to go down, he was going to go down honestly. That was something his father had taught him. When you mess up, own it. Do not hide. Do not make excuses. Face what you did and take what comes. "Ambassador Kirith," he said, keeping his voice steady with effort. "I was not trying to insult you, and I was not declaring any kind of intent. Where I come from, noticing that someone is attractive is just noticing. It does not have to mean anything. It was a private thought that accidentally became words. I should have controlled myself better, and I am sorry that I did not." The ambassador studied him for a long moment. Her markings had slowed their pulsing, shifting from orange to something closer to yellow. Danny did not know what yellow meant. Probably nothing good. "You are being truthful," she said finally. It was not a question. "Yes, ma'am. Even though a lie might save you, a lie would not save me. You would know, and then I would be both inappropriate and dishonest." Something changed in her face. Danny could not say what exactly, but the sharpness in her eyes softened just a little. Just enough to give him hope that maybe, just maybe, he was not about to die. Interesting. she said, and then she turned and walked back to the window, leaving Danny standing in the middle of the observation deck, sweating through his uniform. Wondering what the hell had just happened, Commander Grant grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the door. "You," she hissed, "are coming with me. Right now." Danny did not argue. He followed her out of the observation deck, feeling the eyes of everyone in the room on his back. As the door closed behind them, he heard one of the diplomats let out a breath they had been holding in the corridor. Commander Grant stopped and turned to face him. Her face was red now, which was never a good sign. "Do you have any idea," she said slowly, each word precise and sharp, "what you have just done?" "Started a war?" Danny guessed. "Maybe. Probably. I do not know yet." She ran a hand through her red hair, making it stick up in angry spikes. 2 years. 2 years of careful negotiation. 2 years of watching every word, every gesture, every facial expression. And you undid it all in 5 seconds, because you could not stop yourself from commenting on the ambassador's backside. "It was a really nice backside," Danny said, and immediately wished he had not. Commander Grant stared at him. Then she laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh people made when they were trying not to scream. "Go to your quarters," she said. "Stay there. Do not talk to anyone. Do not look at anyone. I am going to try to fix this, but I make no promises. You might be going home on the next transport. You might be going to a Valaxian prison. I honestly do not know. Danny did not sleep that night. He lay on his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling of his quarters, listening to the soft hum of the ship's engines and waiting for someone to come arrest him, or shoot him, or drag him before some alien court where they would decide how many years he would spend in a Valaxian prison. None of that happened. By morning, Danny was exhausted and confused. He had expected guards at his door. He had expected Commander Grant to come back with bad news. Instead, there was nothing. Just silence and the slow passage of hours. At 0700, his communicator beeped. He grabbed it so fast he almost dropped it. "Lieutenant Cole," Commander Grant's voice said through the small speaker. "Report to conference room 3. Immediately." "Yes, ma'am," Danny said, but she had already ended the call. He showered quickly, put on a fresh uniform, and tried to make his hair behave. It did not. It never did. He gave up and headed for the conference room, his stomach tight with anxiety. The corridors of the Horizons Edge were busy with crew members going about their morning duties. Some of them looked at Danny as he passed. Word had spread, apparently. Everyone knew what had happened on the observation deck. He could see it in their eyes, a mixture of pity and curiosity, and the kind of fascination people had when watching a disaster unfold. Danny kept his head up and walked like he was not afraid. His father had taught him that too. Even when you are scared, do not show it. Fear is a private thing. Conference room 3 was on deck 5, in the section of the ship reserved for diplomatic functions. The door was open when Danny arrived. He stepped inside and stopped. Commander Grant was there, sitting at the long table that dominated the room. But she was not alone. Ambassador Kira sat across from her, her silver eyes fixed on Danny as he entered. Her markings pulsed slowly in shades of blue and green. Danny did not know what green meant, but it seemed calmer than the orange from yesterday. "Lieutenant Cole," Commander Grant said. "Sit down." Danny sat. He chose a chair at the end of the table, as far from both women as he could get while still being in the same room. It did not feel far enough. "The ambassador has requested to speak with you," Commander Grant continued. Her voice was flat, giving nothing away. "I have agreed to allow this conversation, against my better judgment. You will answer her questions honestly and respectfully. Is that understood?" "Yes, ma'am." Commander Grant nodded and stood up. I will be outside. Try not to start another war." She left the room, and the door closed behind her with a soft hiss. Danny was alone with Ambassador Kirath. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The ambassador studied him with those silver eyes, her expression unreadable. Danny forced himself to meet her gaze. Looking away would be weakness, and he had already shown enough weakness for one lifetime. "You did not sleep," Ambassador Kirath said finally. It was not a question. Danny wondered how she knew. Could Valaxians smell exhaustion? See it in the heat patterns of human skin? He decided he did not want to know. "No, ma'am. I did not." "You were afraid?" "Yes, ma'am. Are you still afraid?" Danny considered the question. His heart was beating fast, and his palms were sweaty, but fear was not quite the right word for what he felt now. It was more like anticipation, like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing you were about to fall but not knowing how far. "I am nervous," he said, "but not afraid. Whatever happens, I made a choice to be honest yesterday. I do not regret that choice." Ambassador Kirath tilted her head slightly. An interesting answer. Most beings, when faced with consequences, wish they had chosen differently. "You do not." "I wish I had not said what I said out loud," Danny admitted. "But I do not wish I had lied about it afterward. There is a difference." "Yes," she said slowly. "There is." She rose from her chair and moved to the window. The conference room had a large viewport that showed the stars drifting by, cold and distant and beautiful. Ambassador Kirath stood before it, her blue skin catching the starlight. "Do you know why the Valaxian Council has been hesitant to form an alliance with Earth?" she asked. Danny blinked at the sudden change of subject. "I was told it was because the negotiations were complicated. Different cultures, different values, different ways of seeing the universe. That is what your diplomats believe. It is not entirely wrong, but it is not the whole truth either." She turned to face him. "The truth is that my people do not trust yours." "Why not?" "Because you lie." She said it simply, without accusation. "Not all the time, and not about everything. But you lie. You hide what you think. You say words that do not match what you feel. You smile when you are angry. You agree when you disagree. You pretend to be things you are not." Danny wanted to argue, but he could not. She was right. Humans did lie. They did hide their true feelings. It was called being polite, being professional, being diplomatic. It was how human society worked. "We do not do this," Ambassador Kirath continued. "Valaxians cannot lie. Our markings show our emotions, whether we want them to or not. Our voices carry truth in frequencies your ears cannot hear. Deception is physically impossible for us." "That sounds difficult," Danny said. "It is sometimes. But it also means that we always know where we stand with each other. There is no guessing, no wondering, no fear that the person across from us is hiding something dangerous." She paused. "With humans, we never know. Your diplomats are very careful. They control their faces, their voices, their words. They reveal nothing. And this makes us afraid." Danny had never thought about it that way. He had always assumed that diplomacy was about being careful, about choosing the right words and making the right gestures. He had never considered that the Valaxians might see all that carefulness as a kind of deception. "Yesterday," Ambassador Kirath said, "you did something no human has done in 2 years of talks. You told the truth. Not a careful truth, not a diplomatic truth, but an honest, unfiltered truth. You saw something, you thought something, and you said it out loud. It was an accident," Danny said. "I know. That is what makes it valuable." She walked closer to him, her silver robes rustling softly. "Your diplomats work very hard to show us only what they want us to see. But you, in one careless moment, showed us what humans are really like. You showed us that underneath all the training and the protocols and the careful words, you are beings who notice beauty, who have thoughts you cannot always control, who make mistakes and admit them. Danny was not sure if he was being praised or criticized. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It is a real thing, she said. And real things can be trusted in ways that performed things cannot. She sat down across from him, closer than before. Her markings pulsed warmly now, deep blue with hints of purple. Danny still did not know what all the colors meant, but this felt different from yesterday. Less threatening. Tell me about yourself, Lieutenant Cole, she said. Not the things that are in your official file. The real things. The things you would not normally share with a stranger. Danny hesitated. This felt like a test, but he did not know what the right answer was. So he decided to do what he had done yesterday. Tell the truth and hope for the best. I grew up in a small town in Colorado, he said. My father was a teacher. My mother worked at a bakery. I have a younger sister named Katie, who's much smarter than me. She is in medical school now, going to be a doctor. Are you proud of her? Very much. She's going to do great things. Important things. Me, I always knew I was not going to be anything special. I am not smart enough to be a scientist or a doctor. I am not smooth enough to be a diplomat. But I'm good at noticing things, and I'm good at being steady when things go wrong. So I became a security officer. You believe you are not special? Ambassador Kirith asked. I know I am not. And that is okay. The universe needs ordinary people too. Someone has to stand in the corners and watch the doors. She studied him for a long moment. You are wrong, she said finally. About what? About not being special. Ordinary people do not stand in front of alien ambassadors and tell them uncomfortable truths. Ordinary people lie to save themselves. You did not lie. That is not ordinary. Danny felt his face grow warm. He was not used to being praised, especially not by someone as important as Ambassador Kirith. I just did not see the point in lying, he said. You would have known. Many people still would have tried. Humans often choose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths, even when they know the lies will not work. It is one of the things we find most confusing about your species. We are complicated, Danny admitted. We do not always make sense, even to ourselves. No, she agreed. You do not. But perhaps that is not entirely a bad thing. She stood and walked to the door. Before she opened it, she turned back to face him. I am going to recommend that the negotiations continue, she said. And I am going to request that you be included in future meetings. Danny stared at her. Me? Why? Because I want someone in the room who will tell me the truth, she said. Even when the truth is about my posterior. She opened the door. Commander Grant was waiting outside, her face tight with anxiety. Ambassador, the commander said. Has there been a resolution? There has, Ambassador Kirith said. I have decided that Lieutenant Cole is exactly the kind of human we should be talking to. He is imperfect, unpolished, and refreshingly honest. I want him at our next meeting. Commander Grant looked like she had rule. The first official meeting with Danny present was a disaster, but not in the way anyone expected. The conference room was filled with diplomats from both sides. Earth had sent its best, men and women in expensive suits with perfect hair and practiced smiles. The Valaxians had sent 5 representatives, all of them tall and glowing and impossible to read. Ambassador Kirith sat at the head of their group, her silver eyes moving slowly around the room. Danny stood in the corner, where security officers were supposed to stand. Commander Grant had argued with the ambassador for nearly an hour, trying to explain why having a junior officer at a high-level meeting was a bad idea. Ambassador Kirith had simply repeated her request until the commander gave up. Just stand there and do not say anything. Commander Grant had told him before the meeting started. "I mean it, Cole. Not one word. Not if someone speaks to you, but do not open your mouth." Danny had agreed. He was very good at standing quietly in corners. He had been doing it for years. The meeting began with the usual diplomatic talk. Earth's lead negotiator, a man named Philip Harrison, spoke about the benefits of cooperation between their two species. Trade routes, technology sharing, mutual defense agreements. He used big words and long sentences and smiled a lot. The Valaxians listened without expression. Their markings stayed steady, a calm blue that gave nothing away. After 20 minutes, Ambassador Kirith raised her hand. Harrison stopped talking. "May I ask Lieutenant Cole a question?" she said. Everyone in the room turned to look at Danny. Commander Grant's face went pale. "Of course, Ambassador," Harrison said smoothly, though Danny could see a muscle twitching in his jaw. "Though I should mention that Lieutenant Cole is not a trained negotiator. He may not be able to address complex matters." "I do not wish to ask him about complex matters," Ambassador Kirith said. "I wish to ask him a simple question." She turned those silver eyes on Danny. "Lieutenant Cole, what do you think of what Mr. Harrison has been saying?" Danny felt every eye in the room on him. The diplomats were staring with a mixture of horror and fascination. The Valaxians were watching with what might have been curiosity. Commander Grant looked like she was about to have a heart attack. He remembered his promise to stay quiet. He also remembered what Ambassador Kirith had said about humans and lies. "Permission to speak freely, ma'am?" he asked Commander Grant. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she nodded, very slightly. Danny took a breath. "Honestly, I think it sounds nice, but it does not mean much." Harrison made a choking sound. "I beg your pardon?" "I am not trying to be rude," Danny said quickly. "You are very good at talking, sir. The words are beautiful. But when I listen to them, I do not really know what we are actually offering. It sounds like we want the Valaxians to be our friends, but I cannot tell what we would actually do for them if they said yes." The room was silent. Harrison's face had gone red. Commander Grant looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor, but Ambassador Kirith was smiling. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was there. "Exactly," she said. "This is exactly what I was hoping to hear." She turned to her fellow Valaxians and spoke in their language, a series of soft clicks and musical tones that no human could understand. They responded, their markings shifting through colors Danny did not recognize. Some kind of discussion was happening, though Danny had no idea what was being said. Finally, Ambassador Kirith turned back to the humans. "For 2 years, we have listened to your diplomats say beautiful things. We have heard promises of cooperation and friendship and mutual benefit, but we could never tell what any of it actually meant. Your people are too good at saying words without substance." Harrison opened his mouth to protest, but the ambassador held up her hand. "I am not criticizing. I understand that this is how human diplomacy works, but it does not work for us. We need to know what we are actually agreeing to. We need specifics, not poetry." She gestured toward Danny. "Lieutenant Cole, without meaning to, has shown us what we have been missing. A human who says exactly what he thinks. When he listens to something and finds it confusing or empty, he says so. This is valuable to us." Commander Grant stood up slowly. "Ambassador, are you saying that our negotiation approach has been wrong this entire time?" "I am saying that it has been wrong for us," Kirith corrected. "Your approach may work perfectly well with other species, but Valaxians need clarity above all else. We need to know exactly what is being offered and exactly what is being asked in return. We cannot trust agreements built on vague language and pleasant feelings." Harrison leaned forward, his professional composure cracking. "With respect, Ambassador, diplomacy requires a certain level of flexibility. Agreements that are too specific can become obstacles to cooperation. Agreements that are too vague become meaningless, Kirith replied. We prefer obstacles to emptiness. She stood and walked around the table until she was standing in front of Danny. Her markings pulsed with warm colors, purples and soft greens. Lieutenant Cole, I have a proposal for you. Danny straightened. Ma'am? I want you to be our human advisor. When our peoples negotiate, you will sit with my delegation. You will listen to what the Earth diplomats say, and you will tell us what you think it really means. No careful language. No diplomatic phrasing. Just honest translation. Danny heard Commander Grant make a sound that was halfway between a laugh and a cry of despair. Ambassador, I am not qualified for that, he said. I do not understand politics or trade agreements or any of this stuff. I am just a security officer. Exactly, Kirith said. You do not understand these things, so you cannot play the games that people who understand them play. You are forced to be simple and direct. That is what we need. She tilted her head, studying him. Unless you would prefer not to. This would change your position significantly. It would be a big responsibility. Danny thought about it. He thought about his quiet life in the corners of rooms, watching doors and counting the hours until his shift ended. He thought about his career, which had been going nowhere special. He thought about his parents, who had always hoped he would do something meaningful with his life. And he thought about what Ambassador Kirith had said about him being different. About him being exactly the kind of human they could work with. I would be honored to help, he said. But I want to be clear about something first. Yes? I am going to mess up. I'm going to say things that are wrong or stupid or offensive. Not because I want to, but because I do not know any better. If you want me to be honest, you have to be ready for honest mistakes. Ambassador Kirith's smile grew slightly wider. That is acceptable. In fact, that is preferred. We would rather have honest mistakes than polished lies. She turned back to the room. The Valaxian delegation proposes the following. We will continue these negotiations, but with a new approach. Lieutenant Cole will serve as an advisor to our side, helping us understand the true meaning behind Earth's proposals. In return, we will provide Earth with a similar advisor. Someone who can help you diplomats understand what we are actually thinking and feeling. Harrison looked at Commander Grant. Commander Grant looked at Harrison. Neither of them seemed to know what to say. This is highly unusual, Harrison managed finally. Yes, Kirith agreed. But the usual has not been working. Perhaps unusual will work better. The meeting continued for another hour. By the end, the humans had agreed to try the ambassador's new approach. Danny was officially reassigned from security to diplomatic liaison, a title that meant nothing to him, but apparently meant a great deal to the people who cared about such things. After the meeting, Commander Grant pulled Danny aside. I do not know if you are the luckiest man in the galaxy or the unluckiest, she said. Is there a difference? Danny asked. She laughed, a genuine laugh this time. I suppose we will find out. Congratulations on your promotion, Lieutenant. Try not to start any wars. I will do my best, ma'am. He walked back to his quarters, his head spinning with everything that had happened. 3 days ago, he'd been a nobody, standing in corners and watching doors. Now he was a diplomatic advisor to an alien delegation, chosen specifically because he could not stop himself from saying what he thought. Life, Danny decided, was very strange. When he reached his quarters, he found a message waiting for him on his communicator. It was from Ambassador Kirith. Thank you for accepting my proposal, the message said. I look forward to working with you, Lieutenant Cole. I believe we will accomplish great things together. Also, for the record, I was not offended by your comment about my posterior. I was surprised. Among my people, such observations are quite rare. I had never considered whether my physical form was pleasing by human standards. Your honesty, though unexpected, was not unwelcome. Danny stared at the message for a long time, trying to figure out what it meant. Was she saying she did not mind that he had found her attractive? Was she saying she was flattered? Was she saying something else entirely that he was too human to understand? He decided not to reply. Some questions were better left unanswered. Instead, he lay down on his bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about all the strange turns his life had taken since that moment on the observation deck. He had said something stupid, and somehow that stupidity had become the most valuable thing about him. His father had. 3 weeks passed. In that time, Danny learned more about Valaxians than any human had learned in years. He attended every negotiation session, sitting with the Valaxian delegation instead of the humans. It felt strange at first, like being a spy in his own house. But Ambassador Kirith had been clear about his role. He was not there to betray Earth's interests. He was there to translate, to help both sides understand each other better. The work was harder than Danny had expected. Human diplomats used words like tools, each one carefully chosen to mean exactly what they wanted it to mean and nothing more. When they said, "We are open to discussion," they might mean, "We will consider this if you give us something first," or "We will never agree, but we want to seem reasonable," or even, "Please stop talking about this." Forever, Danny had to learn to hear these hidden meanings and explain them to the Valaxians. It was exhausting, but slowly, things began to change. The negotiations, which had been stuck for 2 years, started to move forward. With Danny translating human vagueness into Valaxian directness, both sides could finally talk about what they actually wanted. Trade agreements that had seemed impossible suddenly became possible. Defense arrangements that had been discussed for months were settled in days. Commander Grant started looking at Danny differently, not with suspicion or disappointment, but with something that might have been respect. "I still think this whole thing is strange," she told him one evening, "but I cannot argue with the results. We have accomplished more in 3 weeks than we did in 2 years." "I am just saying what I see," Danny said. "It is not complicated." "That is exactly what makes it complicated," she replied. "The rest of us have spent our whole careers learning how to be complicated. You just skip all of that and say the obvious thing. It should not work, but it does." Ambassador Kirith was even more pleased with the progress. Her markings glowed warm colors whenever she looked at Danny now. Purples and greens, and sometimes a soft gold that he had learned meant contentment. They had started meeting in the evenings, just the two of them, to review the day's negotiations and plan for the next. These meetings happened in her quarters, a large suite that smelled like the flowers from her homeworld and was filled with soft light. At first, Danny had been nervous about being alone with her, but Kirith was easy to talk to once you got used to her directness. She asked questions and listened to the answers. She explained things about Valaxian culture that helped Danny understand her people better. She laughed at his jokes, even the ones that were not very funny. One evening, about a month after his new assignment had started, Kirith asked him a question that caught him off guard. "Why did you become a security officer?" Danny thought about it. He had answered this question before, in job interviews and conversations with family. But those answers had been polished, designed to make him sound better than he felt. With Kirith, he told the truth. "I was not good enough for anything else," he said. "I tried other things. Pilot training, I washed out after 6 months. I did not have the reflexes. Engineering, I could never understand the math. Diplomatic course, I failed the first screening because they said I was too blunt." Kirith's markings pulsed with amusement. "Too blunt for human diplomacy, but perfect for ours. Life is strange." "Very strange," Danny agreed. Security was the only thing left. I could stand still for long periods. I could notice when things were wrong. And I was big enough that people thought twice before causing trouble. It was not glamorous, but it was something. You sound ashamed. Maybe a little. My sister is going to be a doctor. She's going to save lives and cure diseases. I was going to spend my career standing in corners. It is not exactly a heroic destiny. Kirith leaned forward. And now? Do you still feel ashamed? Danny considered the question. The past month had been the most interesting of his life. He had helped bridge a gap between two species. He had learned things that no other human knew. He had found a purpose that actually mattered. No, he said finally. I feel useful. For the first time in my life, I feel like I am doing something that makes a difference. Good, Kirith said. Because you are. The progress we have made would not have happened without you. Your honesty has opened doors that were locked for years. She stood and walked to the window of her quarters. The stars drifted by outside, countless points of light in the endless darkness. I want to tell you something, she said. Something I have not shared with any other human. Danny waited, not sure what to expect. The Valaxian Council was ready to end negotiations with Earth, Kirith said. Before I came to this ship, I was given a mission. I was told to make one final attempt to understand your people. If I failed, we were going to walk away. No alliance, no trade, no cooperation. Earth would have been alone in this part of space, surrounded by species who did not trust you. Danny felt cold. He had not known things were that serious. What changed? He asked. Kirith turned to face him. Her markings were glowing softly, colors Danny had never seen before, deep blues and silvers that seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. You did, she said simply. That day on the observation deck, when you said those words about my form, you showed me something. You showed me that humans were capable of unfiltered truth. You showed me that underneath all the careful masks, there were real beings with real thoughts and feelings. She walked closer to him. I reported back to the council that night. I told them what had happened. I told them that I have found a human who could not lie, even when lying would save him. Do you know what they said? What? They said that such a human was worth more than 100 diplomats. They said that if Earth had people like you, perhaps there was hope for understanding after all. Danny did not know what to say. He had assumed that his comment had nearly ruined everything. Instead, it had saved everything. The thought made his head spin. I need to tell you something else, Kirith said. Her voice was softer now, almost hesitant. Danny had never heard her sound hesitant before. What is it? She took a breath. Her markings shifted to colors he did not recognize. Something warm and uncertain. When you made that comment about my form, I said that among my people, such observations are either insults or declarations of intent. That is true. What I did not say is what happens when neither of those things apply. Danny waited. When a Valaxian notices something attractive and says so without meaning to, when words simply escape because the feeling is too strong to contain, we have a word for that. It is called a recognition. It means that the speaker has seen something true about the other person, something beautiful that they could not ignore. Her eyes met his. In my culture, a recognition is not shameful. It is honored. It is considered one of the most genuine forms of appreciation one being can offer another. Danny's mouth was dry. So when I said what I said, you did not think it was rude? I thought it was surprising. And then I thought about it more, and I realized that it was exactly what I had been looking for from humans. A moment of genuine truth, unplanned and uncontrolled. It was like finding a diamond in a field of glass. She reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were cool and smooth, and her markings brightened where they touched his skin. I have spent much time with you over these past weeks. Danny Cole, I have watched you be honest even when it would be easier to lie. I have watched you struggle and learn and grow. And I have found myself noticing things about you. Things? Your eyes, when you concentrate on something difficult. Your voice, when you explain things to someone who does not understand. The way you stand when you are nervous, but do not want anyone to know. Danny's heart was beating fast. This was not how he had expected this evening to go. I am telling you this, Kirith continued, because I believe you deserve to know. Among my people, we do not hide our feelings. If I find you attractive, I say so. If I enjoy your company, I admit it. If I am uncertain about what to do next, I share that uncertainty. She squeezed his hand gently. I am uncertain about what to do next. You are human. I am Valaxian. Our species have never had this kind of relationship before. I do not know if it is possible. I do not know if you would even want it to be possible. Danny looked at her, this tall, glowing, impossibly beautiful being who had turned his life upside down. He thought about all the rules he had been taught, about keeping professional distance, about the dangers of getting too close to aliens, about the million ways this could go wrong. Then he thought about what she had said, about honesty, about recognition, about saying what you feel because the feeling is too strong to contain. I do not know what to do next either, he said. But I know that I have been happier these past few weeks than I have been in years. I know that I look forward to seeing you every day. I know that when you smile, something inside me gets warm. Her markings brightened, golds and pinks swirling across her skin. I know that I like you, Danny continued, and I do not want to pretend that I do not. Whatever happens, whatever this becomes, I want to find out together. Kira smiled. It was a full smile this time, not the small one she usually allowed herself. It transformed her face into something radiant. That, she said, is exactly the kind of honest answer I was hoping for. She did not let go of his hand for a long time. 6 months later, Danny stood in the grand hall of the Valaxian homeworld, wearing a dress uniform that had been specially made for the occasion. The fabric was uncomfortable and the collar was too tight, but he did not complain. Today was too important for complaints. The hall was enormous, bigger than anything Danny had ever seen on Earth. The ceiling rose so high that it seemed to disappear in the mist. The walls were covered in glowing patterns that shifted and changed like living things. Thousands of Valaxians filled the space, their markings creating a sea of color that took Danny's breath away. At the front of the hall, on a raised platform, sat the Valaxian High Council. 12 beings, the oldest and wisest of their kind. Their skin so pale it was almost white, and their markings burning with steady golden light. They were the ones who would decide the fate of the Alliance today. Ambassador Kirith stood beside Danny, her silver robes flowing around her like water. Her markings pulsed slowly, calm blues and greens that showed she was at peace. Over the past months, Danny had learned to read those colors like a language. He knew that she was nervous too, even if she did not show it the way a human would. Commander Grant was there as well, along with the rest of Earth's diplomatic team. They stood on the opposite side of the platform, watching the proceedings with careful expressions. Even Harrison was there, though he had learned to be much more direct in the past 6 months. Working with Danny had changed him, he admitted once. Made him realize how much energy he had wasted on words that meant nothing. The High Counselor, an ancient Valaxian named Varth, rose from his seat. His markings flared bright gold, demanding silence. The hall fell quiet instantly. We are gathered today to witness a historic moment, Varth said. His voice was soft but carried to every corner of the vast space. For 200 years, the Valaxian people have watched humanity spread across the stars. We have seen them build and destroy, create and corrupt, love and hate. We have wondered whether they could be trusted. whether they could be partners, whether they could be friends. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the crowd. For 2 years, we tried to understand them through traditional means. Our diplomats met their diplomats. Words were exchanged. Promises were made. But we could not see past the masks they wore. We could not find the truth beneath the careful language. His ancient eyes turned to Danny. And then something unexpected happened. A young human, barely noticed by his own people, spoke a truth without meaning to. A simple truth, an embarrassing truth, but a truth nonetheless. And in that moment, we saw something we had been looking for all along. Danny felt his face grow warm. He had hoped that particular story would be left out of today's proceedings. Apparently, that was too much to ask. We saw that humans are capable of honesty, Vorth continued. Not the careful honesty of diplomats, but the raw honesty of beings who cannot help but speak what they feel. We saw that beneath their masks, they are creatures of passion and impulse and genuine emotion. They are messy and complicated and frustrating. But they are real. He gestured toward Danny. Lieutenant Cole, please step forward. Danny walked toward the platform, his legs feeling like they belonged to someone else. The eyes of thousands of Valaxians followed him. He tried not to think about how easy it would be to trip on his own feet and embarrass himself in front of an entire civilization. Lieutenant Cole, Vorth said, you have served as a bridge between our peoples. You have translated not just words but meanings. You have shown our diplomats that humans can be trusted to say what they think. Because of your work, negotiations that were dead have come alive. Agreements that seemed impossible have been reached. Understanding that did not exist has been created. He held out his hand and another counselor placed something in it. A small object that gleamed with inner light. In recognition of your service, the Valaxian High Council grants you the status of honored speaker. This is a title we have never given to a non-Valaxian before. It means that your words carry weight among our people. It means that when you speak, we will listen. It means that you are no longer a stranger to us, but a friend. He pinned the glowing object to Danny's chest. It was a small crystal that pulsed with soft blue light, matching the calm colors of Kyrith's markings. Thank you, Danny managed. I do not know if I deserve this, but I am grateful for it. Deserving is not the question, Varus said. You have earned it. That is what matters. He turned to address the crowd again. Today, we formalize the alliance between Valaxi and Earth. Our peoples will share technology and knowledge. We will defend each other against common enemies. We will explore the stars together. This is the beginning of a new era. The crowd erupted in colors, markings flashing celebration patterns that made the entire hall look like it was on fire with joy. Danny felt something he had not expected. Pride, not just in himself, but in his species. Humanity had been given a chance to prove itself, and somehow, despite all their flaws and failures, they had succeeded. After the ceremony, there was a celebration. Food and drink and music that sounded strange to human ears, but was beautiful in its own way. Danny found himself surrounded by Valaxians who wanted to meet the human who had started it all. They asked him questions about Earth, about human culture, about whether all humans were as honest as he was. I am not that honest, he kept telling them. I just could not control my mouth at the wrong moment. They did not seem to believe him. Maybe that was for the best. As the celebration continued, Kirith pulled him away from the crowd and led him to a quiet balcony overlooking the city below. The Valaxian capital stretched to the horizon, towers of crystal and light that made Earth cities look primitive by comparison. You did well today, she said. I was terrified, Danny admitted. I kept thinking I was going to say something stupid and ruin everything again. Saying something stupid is how this all started. Maybe it would have been fitting. Danny laughed. It was strange how comfortable he had become with her over these months. She had gone from being a terrifying alien ambassador to being the person he most wanted to talk to at the end of every day. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now the real work begins. The alliance is signed, but that is only the beginning. There will be challenges, misunderstandings, moments when our peoples frustrate each other. Your job is to help us get through those moments without losing what we have built." That sounds like a lot of responsibility. It is. She turned to face him, her markings glowing warm gold in the evening light. "But you will not be doing it alone. I will be there with you, every step of the way." Danny felt something shift in his chest. He had spent most of his life feeling ordinary, feeling like he did not matter, feeling like he was just taking up space while other people did important things. But standing here, next to this amazing being who had chosen him for reasons he still did not fully understand, he felt like maybe he was exactly where he was supposed to be. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Of course. 6 months ago, I was a security officer who stood in corners and watched doors. I had no future, no purpose, no reason to think my life would ever be anything special. And then I said something stupid about your butt, and everything changed." Tyreth's markings flickered with amusement. "Is there a point to this story?" "The point is that I am grateful. Not just for the promotion or the title or any of that stuff. I am grateful that you saw something in me that I could not see in myself. I am grateful that you took a chance on a nobody from nowhere and gave me a reason to matter." She reached out and took his hand, just like she had that night in her quarters when everything between them had started to change. "You were never a nobody, Danny Cole. You were always exactly who you needed to be. You just needed someone to notice." She leaned closer, and Danny's heart started beating faster. Over the past months, they had grown close in ways he had never expected, but they had never crossed certain lines. He had not been sure if crossing those lines was even possible between a human and a Velaxian. "I want to tell you something," she said. "Something I have been waiting to say until the right moment." "What is it?" "When I first came to your ship, I thought humans were complicated and confusing and impossible to understand. I thought this mission would fail like all the others before it. I thought I would go home disappointed and recommend that we give up on your species entirely." Her markings shifted to colors Danny had learned to recognize. Deep purple, the color of strong emotion. Bright gold, the color of joy. And something new, a soft pink he had never seen before. "But then I met you, and I realized that humans are not complicated at all. They are actually very simple. They feel things deeply and struggle to hide it. They want connection and meaning and love, just like everyone else in the universe. They make mistakes and try to fix them. They fall down and get back up. They are brave in ways they do not even recognize." She lifted her free hand and touched his face gently. Her fingers were cool against his skin. "I fell in love with a human," she said. "I did not expect it. I did not plan it. It just happened. The same way your words happened that day on the observation deck. Sometimes the truest things are the ones we cannot control." Danny felt like his heart was going to burst out of his chest. He had suspected her feelings for Mon,